Breaking news, the Avengers video game made by Square Enix is very fun. It has everything I could have ever wanted in a video game about the Avengers, and even so much more than that. Now there are a few things that I don't really like about it. Like, there were some glitches and some minor things like that, but that's a subject for a whole nother video, because today, instead, I'm going to be answering the question in the title of this video: which other Marvel heroes should become playable in Marvel's Avengers? I will be going through a list of several of the heroes from the comics or even the MCU that I hope get put into the game as playable characters somewhere down the road. Obviously, Square Enix has already announced that they are working on other characters and new stories that will be introduced in the coming months that we can play through in the game and everything else, which is what is giving me high hopes for the future of this game. Before I get started, I just need to warn you that there will be slight spoilers in this video, because some of the things I'm going to be mentioning sort of relate to stuff that happened in the game. So there's just a warning there for you. Now let's get right into it. I don't know much about Quake from the comic books, but based off what I've seen her do in the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. TV series, which I still can't believe is over, I think it would be really cool to have her as a playable character in the Avengers game. Not only does she have cool powers where she can send people flying with earth-shattering blasts of energy from her hands, or quakes, like make earthquakes sort of happen, things like that, but the way she got those powers also fits in with the story that's told in the game's campaign. Basically, it involves the creation of Inhumans through the use of Terrigenesis, which is also how Quake got her powers both on the show and in the comics. We see that in the game, where it's sort of like an accident that occurs that creates the Terrigenesis that leads to the creation of the Inhumans. But what a better way to introduce her in the game than to have her as one of the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. team within the game who gains powers from the incident. Um, Having her in the game would be amazing, but I also feel like you can't have her without also having some of her friends from the show added to the game as well, as maybe like supporting characters or whatever. Maybe not necessarily as playable characters themselves. I'm talking like Agent Coulson or Agent Mac or Yo-Yo or any of them. If you've seen Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you know who I'm talking about. That would be really cool to see all of them, even Fitz and Simmons. You could even have the actors that played their characters in the show do the voices for them if they needed to, but they don't necessarily have to be playable characters, like I said, but just having them as part of her story arc would help it sort of tie into the MCU and the show and everything else, which I'm all for. As of right now, in this game, there haven't really been any missions that take place on another planet or somewhere else in the galaxy. It's all taken place on Earth or around Earth, which is why I think having a character that is known for traveling through space to fight against powerful beings might be a whole new level of excitement to the game. I'm talking, of course, about Captain Marvel. I'm sure they already have plans in motion to probably introduce her into this game, but aside from a brief comment by Captain America that mentioned her being off-world, there haven't really been any hints as to whether or not she will ever actually show up to meet the Avengers for some crazy mission down the road. Plus, she is an inspiration to the main character Kamala Khan in the game, who, like, she has posters of her hung up in her room and wears a shirt with Captain Marvel's symbol on it and everything else. Which I think is also, she's a fan of hers in the comics, and that's kind of plays into that as well. So there's a bit of story there that they could explore. I think it would be a lot of fun to have, at the very least, a mission where you have to take out some threat on another planet or on another world somewhere while playing as Captain Marvel. It could be like an expansion or DLC mission of some sort. I personally would love flying around as Captain Marvel and taking out bad guys while pretty much invincible, like we saw her in the movie if she goes binary or whatever. You'd obviously have to level her up like everybody else, but it would still be fun just to play as Captain Marvel, I think. Wouldn't you agree? For those of you who have already played this game or beat the campaign, you already know that Hank Pym plays a somewhat major role toward the middle of the story. However, we never get to see him actually like don the Ant-Man suit, and we never get to play as him either. He's more of just like the he leads the I guess it's the Resistance faction, or like this secret group of Inhumans that went into hiding after what happens in the game. He's like their shelter with him. Like he found them a place to stay. It's called the Ant Hill and everything else. So he kind of plays. That's a major role toward the middle of the story, but we don't ever get to play as him or anything like that. We did get a mention of him being Ant-Man, but his response was that he basically gave that up or something along those lines. Like Kamala Khan says, "Hey, you're Ant-Man" or whatever. He says, "I don't do that anymore" or something along those lines. Just the mention of the Ant-Man suit, though, possibly existing in this game, makes me wonder if we will get to play as him eventually. Just imagine one of his abilities allowing us to shrink down for a minute and fight people while being very small. I think it would be a lot of fun seeing the game world from a new perspective, because, especially considering how big everything around him would be. Everything would be gigantic, but you could still fight them. It'd be like on the Lego Marvel games, if you ever played those. When you play as Ant-Man, you have the ability to either like shrink really small or, you know, grow to Giant Man, basically. And that was on Marvel's Lego Marvel Superheroes 2, I think, where you could actually do both. You could be Giant Man or, just regular Ant-Man. I think that would be a lot of fun. Plus, they wouldn't need to come up with a brand new story for him, as they simply just connect it to what already happened in the game. Either way, I feel that playing as Ant-Man would add a whole new level of fun and intrigue to this already amazing game. So, if you played the game, you know that it's sort of a mystery of what happened to Nick Fury in this game, who I was surprised actually kind of shows up in the game. But he was on a monitor in like a message that was left behind after he was presumably killed or disappeared for some unknown reason. But the characters never actually meet him at any point in the game, and Maria Hill was basically in charge of S.H.I.E.L.D. in his absence. It's even mentioned by Bruce Banner that no one knows what exactly happened to Nick Fury. With that in mind, I think that a side quest of some sort where we get the chance to play as Fury and find out what happened to him during the events that transpire would be a brilliant way to bring him into the fold. I think I heard somewhere that they are actually planning on having this, so this isn't necessarily a prediction, but it's still cool to think that like we might get to play as Nick Fury, or at least find out what happened to Nick Fury during the events that take place. Um, then we would at least have some answers as to where he is or what he's been doing, which could also play a role in any upcoming plans they may have for content going forward, we would also find out whether or not he's actually dead or doing some shady stuff behind the scenes, kind of like he does in the MCU, which makes this even better. Heck, they could even have him meet up with the other characters at the end of the story to allow us to play with him alongside the Avengers in other quests. And you could have him team up with like Thor and Captain America as one of your four heroes that goes out on all the war zones and the quests you go on and stuff. Um, I just think it would be fun to run around as Nick Fury and shoot some stuff. Moving on. So I thought I'd end this list with a bang. How cool would it be to be able to play as the Sorcerer Supreme himself, Doctor Strange? Especially in a game like this where you level up characters and unlock new abilities as you go along. How amazing would it be to create portals that you can throw people through, or to manipulate time as you take on the enemies in this game? That would definitely open up the game to some new creative fighting styles to use. I think it would be a whole lot of fun. Um, and I think it would have some funny moments as well, or like just things that he says. Like every other character has like quips that they say in the game. I could just see some of the funny stuff, like I said, with throwing people through portals and things and making them come out the other side or whatever. That would add a lot of fun to the game. Plus, having Doctor Strange team up with the other characters for even more unique takedowns and abilities would do wonders for this game. I think a lot of people would be interested if Doctor Strange was in the game, because he's one of like the coolest characters in like the MCU right now. Like, I've never read the comics, so the only thing I know about like these characters is from seeing them in the movies and stuff. So I don't know other stuff that, like, any other villains or anything like that they could introduce with Doctor Strange being in the mix. There's all kinds of stuff they could do that would add a lot of fun moments to this game and maybe attract more people to it. Right now, one of the biggest complaints I've been hearing from people who have played this game is that only a few of the characters are actually worth playing as, because everyone else doesn't really bring anything new to the table. That's why I think adding Doctor Strange to the mix would shake things up a little bit and get more people invested in this game. Also, there's the added bonus of possibly having the Infinity Stones introduced into the game through, Strange's use of the Time Stone and everything else, which can open the door for a certain prune-chinned angry grape to show up in the game at some point, if you know what I mean. Basically, what I'm saying is having Doctor Strange in this game is what's best for business all around. So there you go, guys. Those were some of the other Marvel heroes that I hope become playable characters in the Avengers game somewhere in the future. Let me know what you guys thought of this list and which characters you'd like to play as in the comments section below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button so that you can get more content just like this. Plus, stick with this channel because I'll also be running down some villains I'd like to see become playable characters as well. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching, everyone. Take care.